I think. Yeah. Next 1 hour will be introduction to the disaster management. And the next 1 hour, another 1 hour after the break would be on some of the experiences, some case studies, etc. So these 2 hours will be covering the entire gamut of disaster management across the country, and particularly with reference to some of the case studies in Karnataka state. So you can always ask me, interrupt me in between. You can question anytime, whenever you like. This is a very important topic for all of you, because you have, I think, as sir has just now told, you have just joined. So it is also equally important, not only for the district administration and state government, but also for the universities and colleges, who need to meticulously plan for the disaster management in their educational institutions in the interest of the safety of the students and teachers, from the preventing them from the threats from not only within the campus but also from outside the campus, even in the hostels, etc. So disasters can happen anywhere. So it is also important to know that there is a legal provision since 2005. Government of India has enacted an act called Disaster Management Act 2005, which lays down clear-cut mandatory provisions for implementation in not only in educational institutions but entire the government institutional framework. So we need to understand that disasters do happen whether you like or not. There is no boundary for the disasters. Rich or poor, educational institutions, or it is industry, name anything, disasters do happen and they affect everybody, poor or rich. So therefore, we need to take care of disasters. We need to prepare for them. We need to prevent them wherever possible. We need to mitigate them. And finally, we have to respond to them effectively in order to reduce the disaster losses and damages. Every year, we need to do this. And therefore, the Prime Minister's 10-point agenda, one of the major agendas of the 10-point agenda of Prime Minister is that networking with the educational institutions for managing disasters. So with that in mind, we are just discussing this issue because all of you are from educational institutions, and you must know that there is a Prime Minister 10-point agenda, and one of the agendas is networking with the educational institutions for managing disasters, for effective management of disasters. So there is already an agenda. Government of India has already enacted, has already framed it, and we are supposed to implement all those 10 agenda points of Prime Minister, Government of India. But we should also see that particular point. One of the points is how the educational institutions can be dovetailed into the disaster management. For the first time, I had been to Latur earthquake. You might have heard about it in Maharashtra. Latur, Kilari, many villages were affected by the Latur earthquake. When I was working in housing department in 1990s, 93, I was we were in a team of experts like engineers, architects, planners, even social experts. All of we had gone there for rehabilitation of those who were affected in the earthquake disaster. So we had seen many problems there. Not only the immediate impact of the disaster, but the post impact of the disaster was much more damaging than the immediate disaster, because many people were injured. They were all very severely injured people who were supposed to be rehabilitated. They lost kith and kin. So it starts from there actually. It is not just the housing, it is not just the infrastructure, physical infrastructure that is needed by them immediately, but it is the long-term rehabilitation process which takes more time to bring the entire situation back to the normalcy. So that in that interest, we need to see that a disaster just doesn't end soon after the rehabilitation. Even it goes beyond that, because people will be suffering socially also, psychologically also, mentally also. So that needs to be that needs more care than the just providing them housing or some physical infrastructure. So it ranges from not only physical infrastructure but also livelihood activities and psychosocial care, mental health care, and many more issues that need to be resolved in the disaster site. So this is what in this interest we are going to discuss the basics of disaster management, because all of you are new. I just now came to know. Therefore, I start with what is disaster management. So, what is the definition? It is actually taken directly from the Disaster Management Act 2005. A continuous and integrated process of planning, organizing, coordinating, implementing measures which are necessary for prevention, mitigation, preparedness, which includes capacity building, prompt response, even loss and damage assessment, and finally evacuation, rescue, relief, and finally rehabilitation and reconstruction. All these stages included in that. So I request all of you to see that there are 3 important stages in disaster management. So can anybody just tell me what are those 3 important stages in disaster management? Or we can say disaster, how many phases of disaster will be there? If a disaster, a natural disaster like earthquake happens, what would be the important phases of disaster? Or a flood happens. Now, the Karnataka, the entire country is facing the climate-induced extremities. So we do not know, maybe next to 1 or 2 months after that, in the coming summer, we are going to experience the extreme temperatures. Already it is, they are already saying that, temperature is rising, and it is going to be beyond, maybe more than beyond 2 to 2.5 degrees centigrade from the average temperature. So now we are in the pre-stage, actually pre-disaster stage, and we are also will have post-disaster stage. So pre-disaster, what are the activities we need to perform? Post-disaster, what are the activities to be performed? So that is basically disaster management. So disaster management includes the first phase is preparedness, then prevention, then mitigation. Again, disaster will strike. Soon after the disaster strikes, what are we going to do? Including the teachers, like the educational institution teachers, the assistant professors, even professors also, even from the primary education also, these headmasters, teachers, everybody will be deployed in disasters. What are they going to do soon after the disaster? How the district administration is going to use them, deploy them on the disaster site. So soon after that, they are going to be deployed for search and rescue operations, because people will be stranded inside the disaster site. Then they will be evacuated properly to a safer place, which we call as relief camps. And then what are we going to do? We are providing relief to the people. Relief means it could be medical relief, it could be financial relief, it could be food, water, sanitation, health, etc., etc. So the relief operations will continue for at least 2 to 3 months. Soon after the relief operations, we are going to start the rehabilitation process. The rehabilitation process is generally is not short term. Actually, it may take 1 year, 2 years. Sometimes it has taken more than 2 years also in situations like Andaman Nicobar Islands, even in like Maharashtra also, when Latur earthquake happened, or in Bhuj earthquake when it has taken place in Gujarat, or in cyclone in 99, super cyclone of Odisha. So many times it had taken more than 1 year, 2 years, even sometimes 3 years also. So This entire process or different stages together, if you management. Hope you are clear now. You please think, what is disaster? Somebody will ask you, because this session is on disaster management. What is disaster management? Which includes pre-disaster stages and post-disaster stages. It starts from preparedness, prevention, mitigation, and then search and rescue operations, and then evacuation and relief, rehabilitation, reconstruction. If you are able to manage all these stages effectively, then it is called you are a good disaster manager. If you are missing somewhere some links, then it is not a effective disaster management. Somewhere you are incurring more losses and damages to the people if it is not managed properly. So I'll move to the next one, next stages. Hope you are clear with the disaster. What is disaster management? All of you.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts in this?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go to the next.
Yeah.
So let us discuss what are the different types of disasters now. So we can broadly divide disasters into two broad categories, that is natural disasters and man-made disasters. So further, these two broad categories can be classified into 5 important types. So first is water and climate related disasters, that is floods, droughts, cyclones, tornadoes, hurricanes, cloudburst, and so on and so forth. Basically, these are called hydrometeorological disasters. Hydro means water, meteorological means climate related disasters. So therefore, we call them as water and climate related disasters. So next is geological disasters, which include earthquakes, landslides, mud flows, sea erosion, dam burst, and dam failures. And we have biological disasters. You might have already experienced that in COVID-19. That COVID-19 is a major biological disaster. Epidemics, even for cattle, like foot and mouth disease, which had happened recently in Karnataka and other states. Even dengue, chikungunya kind of diseases, any communicable disease can come under the biological disasters. We have chemical, industrial, nuclear disasters. You might note that Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984 is one of the noteworthy examples of chemical and industrial disasters, which was one of the worst disasters happened anywhere in the world in 1984 December, causing huge losses and damages to the huge loss of life to the people. Even today also they are experiencing the wrath of that disaster. The fifth category is accident-related disasters. You can say any disaster which is not covered under these four groups can be put into the fifth one. So that is accident-related disasters. So you name any disaster other than these four can be put into fifth category. Like any kind of accident, rail or road or even air accident, water-related accidents, even boat capsizing, or for that matter, even air crash, wars, Naxalite activities, terrorist activities, building collapses, stampedes, bomb blasts, etc. Even festival-related disasters, like in Kumbh Mela, many times disasters have happened. So therefore, all such type of disasters could be put into the fifth category. So all of us are clear.
Related disasters are known as man-made disasters, no, sir?
Yeah, it is basically man-made disasters. Accident-related disasters are all man-induced disasters only. You are right, sir. What's your good name, sir? Your name, sir?
Dr. Ashok Kumar.
Yeah. So we are just classifying the disasters into 5 types. Actually, there are only 2 categories. One is natural and other is man-made.
So if I say, Professor, if there is any stampede or things like that, ado man-made agutta?
That is man-made. Man-made.
Great.
All of these are man-made only, actually. This fifth category comes under man-made only.
Okay.
Under the fourth category also, there are man-made.
Yes,
Most
sir.
of them are man-made only. Fourth
Because-
category.
Okay. Because yesterday there was a identification that stampage and all cannot be identified as disaster anta. But nan prakara adu man-made disaster alva anta ashte.
No, these are all disasters. There is a definition of
Okay.
disaster. I will come to that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Even
Yeah.
so, it can be classified into natural and the man-made, sir. It can be brought under both.
Boat capsizing is also disaster because very recently in not recently, in 2010,
Bandipur,
in 2010 there was a boat capsizing incident in Udupi and Mangalore. So many boats were capsized inside the sea because of the bad weather conditions. So even the Coast Guard was deployed for rescuing them. But finally about 7 boats were capsized. Some people were died also, and it was declared as disaster. So even coastal erosion is included as disaster now. Coastal erosion, it is not going to be felt immediately, but it still it is included as disaster
Sir,
under the definition. Yeah.
sir, ಇದು ಕಳೆದ ಒಂದು 30 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ
The
Yeah,
very
yes.
recent disaster is
Sir,
Uttar Pradesh.
please
Sanganal, sir.
mute whoever is. Yeah, now you speak, sir. Speak, sir. Please speak.
ಸರ್ ಕಳೆದ 30 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಡಿಸಾಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿನೇ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ.
There is some disturbance there.
Hello.
Yeah, now please speak because somebody was. There is a disturbance behind his. I think. Yeah. Yeah, please
Hello?
go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, you said man-made disaster, sir. Then COVID is including which category, sir?
COVID is a biological disaster. It
Okay.
is a disaster declared by the World Health Organization as a international emergency.
Okay, sir.
International emergency. It is an international disaster only. Global disaster, you can say.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions?
sir, the thing is that still they are not claiming that as a biological war, though it is considered as a biological disaster, but the people are not ready to accept it as a biological war.
Who has to accept it? People say so. Who
No,
are,
but still the international organizations are not claiming it. As we general or a common people, we are telling it as a biological war, but it has not been officially stated that it is a biological war. But then like here and there they are putting it as a biological war, some articles showing it as a biological war, but still as an official communication or in an official way, it has not been declared as it as a biological disaster. That is there. I think still it is a question mark.
from Government of India side, even under our guidelines, National Disaster Management Authority has issued guidelines. We have to follow them because Prime Minister is the chairperson of the National Disaster Management Authority in India now. So they have classified these disasters, all these disasters as you just now said, biological war, even bio weapons, even bio missiles. All of them are any attacks by those weapons is classified as disaster. Any war is a disaster. Any war, any Naxalite terrorist activities are classified as disasters. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know internationally, but many countries have their own way of declaring the disasters. But India has very clearly classified them as disasters. Okay. Thank you, sir. Very good question. Now let us move to the disaster. Now I think you are clear now. How many types of disasters are there as per Indian classification?
5, sir.
Yeah, you are clear now. 5 types of disasters are there. And we need to take into account all these 5 types when you prepare the disaster management plan, disaster management action plan, we call it as, for any type of educational institution or district administration or state government or any other industry or any offices institution. So we have to have a disaster management plan. Actually, we have prepared from our institute.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, endosulfan tragedy is there, no, sir, in Karnataka as well as Kerala. So can we consider that is a disaster?
It is a disaster.
Yeah.
It is a disaster. It has been a disaster. It is going to be a disaster in the future also.
Yeah.
Great technology, we are creating garbage in the sky. That is also a recent origin.
I'm pardon, sir.
So we are launching rockets and all these satellites are also, we are creating garbage in the sky.
Yeah, I don't know, unless they result into disaster. Suppose they are safely, launched and then they do not cause any disaster. As long as they do not translate themselves into harmful situations, we cannot call them as disasters according to the definition of disaster. Unless they translate themselves into harmful consequences or situations leading to loss of life and damage to the property, assets, etc., we cannot call them as disasters. Okay, sir. Even because satellite is launched, but it doesn't cause, loss of life and damage. Maybe I think in the near future it may do that. But if it causes, then automatically it is also a disaster, sir. Garbage, of course, it is going to, that is a long-term impact actually. As long as, that results into a disaster, immediate loss and damage may not be felt, but in the long term, I think it is going to cause not a lot of natural issues, climate issues. So that is also going to be a disaster. We'll move to the next one. Yeah. Now, disaster management cycle. So you need to know what are the various stages in disaster cycle. So you can see the first one is disaster is going to happen. This is the first step. Once the disaster, because natural disasters cannot be prevented anymore. Okay, that is the problem. Flood cannot be prevented now. Earthquake cannot be prevented. They come without, sometimes, earthquake happens sometimes without any prediction also. It will not come without, with warning. So disaster strike, then immediate step is search and rescue operations. District administration, NDRF, SDRF, police, home guards, civil defense, fire services, etc. They will be deployed for search and rescue operations. So sometimes even departments like, departments like health and family welfare, education, etc. will also be called and deployed for these works, search and rescue operations. Relief, then it will be followed by relief. Relief means providing free food arrangements or food or medical, etc., etc. Then we have a recovery stage there. In between, we are going to recover certain things like, educational institution. If the education should not be interrupted, even if the school is collapsed, the school might have collapsed, but the education should not get interrupted. Somewhere you have to start the education. School students should be brought back to the mainstream. So whether it is a relief camp, whether it is a temporary shelter, wherever, we generally start the educational without interruption. Education classes will continue. That is how the recovery is done. Sometimes the road is damaged, but because of the damages, we cannot move. So immediately the road damage will be repaired and the road is open for movement. So that kind of activities will be there. That is called recovery, immediate recovery. Then we do the, in between that, there is one more important aspect here, losses and damage assessment. For example, you are asked to calculate the total estimate of losses and damages. So because of that, if it is not there, it is very difficult for the government to release the funds. So we submit the losses and damage, we do the survey, go to the site, assess the losses and damages. This is the, like, suppose there is 100 crore rupees of losses and damages. So many houses have collapsed, so many people have died, so many people have been injured, so much of assets have been damaged, roads, water supply, sanitation, telecommunication, electricity, etc. We calculate all that, so much of damages, so much of losses, and then suppose it is 100 crore rupees, we'll send the report to the government. Government will release the money. Once the government starts releasing the money, we'll start the rehabilitation process. So until then, we do not have money to do the rehabilitation. So rehabilitation, basically providing permanent housing, relocation, providing basic infrastructure, livelihood activities, etc. That is called rehabilitation. Then reconstruction, it is a long-term process actually. So one rehabilitation, reconstruction can go together actually, hand in hand. Then we have, once it is not ending here actually. Still the disasters can happen, though therefore we have to prevent them from occurring again and again. So prevention is there, and then we start with the mitigation. Mitigation means what? We take mitigation, like suppose there is a bridge which is damaged, but we need to mitigate that. Mitigation means basically taking structural and non-structural measures to reduce the disaster risk. Suppose there is a damage to the bridge, we need to retrofit it. Retrofitting means strengthening of the existing structure, because it is going to collapse otherwise. So that is called structural mitigation. What is non-structural mitigation? Suppose in an educational institution, in your college, if you want to conduct a street play on do's and don'ts of earthquake, if you want to conduct an essay competition on flood or earthquake or some other disaster, then it is called non-structural mitigation. Drawing competition, or it may be street play, drama, or it can be mock drill. All of them will be called non-structural templates on different disasters like do's and don'ts, a checklist to the people, to the students, or you can organize a debate competition. All of them will be coming under non-structural mitigation, and structural mitigation basically includes strengthening of the existing structures. Suppose there is a canal which is going to breach, then canal has to be properly retrofitted so that it doesn't breach during the heavy rainfall. If there is a dam which is going to breach, then you have to retrofit it. There is a building, multi-story building, which is damaged or which is having some cracks, which is going to collapse, then you need to retrofit it so that it doesn't fall. So such structural and non-structural mitigation measures have to be initiated everywhere. So next, this will be followed by preparedness. So preparedness includes capacity enhancement of the institution or the administration, like it includes both human resources and also other resources. Human resources is basically trained manpower. So suppose there is a NCC teacher, NCC professor, NCC, there is a professor who is an NCC, he is looking after NCC. NSS will be the NSS officers, NCC officers. They are professors, but they are more skilled than the other professors. So they are need to be trained. If they are not trained, if they are not skilled, they are not going to help during the disaster. So for trained human power is very much necessary. They should know how to manage the disasters, how to provide first aid, how to ensure mass casualty management, how to ensure minimum availability of materials. So these skills are very important. So preparedness includes trained human resource, like materials. Some materials is also required. Machines are also required. Money is also required. If you keep them all in good condition, in a better preparedness, then we are very well prepared for managing the disasters. So
But actually, Japan is a earthquake-prone area. So the new construction is adopted. Even buildings are adjusted with the shockproofs and all. I came to know that in order to mitigate the earthquake accidents and all.
Yeah, not only Japan, but even many other countries are adopting them, because Japan, you mentioned it, because Japan is one of the most seismically active countries in the world, and even children are aware what to do, what not to do there nowadays. So since if there is any tremor in the building, students will just automatically activate themselves and go to the safer places, and they take care of themselves. The buildings are constructed in such a way that During the tremors, buildings withstand the tremors, shocks. That kind of lightweight materials like fiber reinforced materials and bearings for heavy mass structures. Even multi-story buildings are designed for earthquake resistance there. Even we are also following, everybody is following, everybody has to follow mandatorily if it is coming under the seismic zones. Seismicity, if there is there, for example, Gujarat in Bhuj comes under zone 5. So zone 5 means we need to design the buildings for zone 5, taking the zonation factor. If it is Karnataka, Maharashtra, like Latur was considered as less risky area in before 93. But in 1993, when earthquake struck there, then it is upgraded actually, zone 4 and zone 4. Again, the buildings have to be designed for zone 4. Like you design the buildings. So everybody started doing this now. Gujarat was not doing earlier, but now they have mandatorily doing it after the Bhuj earthquake. So it is part of the regular activity actually, designing the buildings for earthquake resistance. RCC buildings can be designed for earthquake resistance. Even the stone buildings, random stubble buildings, masonry buildings can also be designed and constructed with all the earthquake resistance features. So not necessarily that whether it is China or Japan or India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, whichever may be the country, many of these countries are vulnerable to earthquakes. In India, the top this northern part of the entire country, the entire Gangetic belt, Himalayan belt is vulnerable to earthquakes of magnitude more than 6 on the Richter scale. So we need to design them. Otherwise, they are more vulnerable actually. Northeastern part of country, almost all the states are vulnerable. So we need to design. Japan, as you mentioned, it is very safe now because it is already, they know that they are already vulnerable and they're making the buildings resistant to the earthquakes, tsunamis, and all other disasters. So you are right actually. So next is, again, disaster will strike. This time, even if the disaster strikes, we are prepared very well. Our preparedness is good. So the next, the losses and damages will be less. Our effort in the post-disaster will be less. So again, every year we take prevention, mitigation, preparedness. The efforts after the disasters will be reduced. Again, next year, again, you take these 3 steps. Again, the next year, again, disaster will happen. So our efforts will be reduced. So every year, if you take action on these 3 important steps, losses and damage will be reduced every year due to the same disaster. If it is a flood, then flood disaster. If it is a earthquake, then earthquake. Cyclone is a cyclone, whatever. So you keep taking all these actions very carefully every year, and our efforts towards search and rescue, relief, recovery, rehabilitation, reconstruction will be reduced. That means the amount of money that we are spending will be reduced. The number of people who are getting injured will be reduced. The number of deaths due to the disaster will be reduced every year. If you take next by 2015, it was started in 2015 actually, agenda that is called, it was in Japan only, in Sendai town, island town. So from there I started actually disaster risk reduction, we call it as DRR. So disaster risk reduction should be done every year with these 3 important elements, and therefore our efforts towards all these steps post disasters will be reduced. Loss and damages will be reduced. So by it's already started in 2015. By 2030, next 15 years, it was actually, they have all agreed to reduce the disaster risk to 0. Is it possible? I don't know. It's already 2023. Another 7 years is left. Less than 7 years. So we need to reduce the disaster risk to 0. Is it possible? Worldwide, they have agreed actually. All 193 countries have agreed reduce the disaster risk to 0. Is it possible? Anybody? By 2030? I don't think it is possible. But we need to do the efforts continuously so that disaster risks are reduced. And at the same time, next, what is this? Dubai climate conference is coming up.
Okay.
Dubai climate conference is coming up very shortly. Just like Paris climate conference. Sir, there is some background. Professor, there is a sound there. There is some sound there, Professor. Somebody is speaking. Okay. Dubai climate conference is going to come up very shortly. Just
Pradeep sir, Pradeep Bobate sir, please mute yourself.
hello, Professor. There is a sound there from your side.
Pradeep Bobate sir, please mute yourself. Right. Sir, we request you to please mute yourself. Pradeep sir.
Sir, host
Sir, he
ನೀವೇ
might
mute
not
ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ.
aware of that. Can I call him and tell?
Yeah, please do that.
Sir,
Yeah.
host ನೀವೇ mute ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ. Host can mute everybody.
Yeah, that also possible.
Host, you mute, sir. You mute
I'll
everybody.
just check up that. I will check. Is Rashmi, I think, somebody.
It was
This is Rashmi Aras, sir.
Okay.
ನೀವು ಹೋಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾರನ್ನು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಡ್ಜ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್.
Okay, I'll do that. I think nobody is there. All are unmuted. No problem. Okay, thank you. So I'll just Dubai conference. I just was mentioning that climate conference is coming up there, and just like 2015 conference in Paris, they are again.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know who is that. Not visible.
हे सगळं त्या दिवशी केलेलं आहे डिस्कशन त्याच्यावर पुन्हा प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्विंग सुद्धा सगळं व्यवस्थित झालेला आहे. ट्रिगर झाला.
Nagesh sir, are you trying to call him or?
I'm trying him to call.
Yeah.
यूज ऑफ ICT करायला पाहिजे.
This Pradeep, I think.
Pradeep Bobate, please mute the speaker.
Pradeep, I think.
Please go ahead, sir.
I'll go. Okay. So actually they have the climate extremities are going to be there in the days to come. Climate induced disasters will increase, and therefore they have pledged that the temperature will be contained to 1.5 degrees only, but it has already increased now. The increasing in the temperature would result in many disasters, that is particularly climate and hydrometeorological disasters. We call them hydrometeorological disasters. Therefore, we need to take care of them in the days to come. There can be drought, there can be flood also. Both will be there. Along with that, there will be heat exposures, heat-induced disasters. Due to heat exposure, people will be subject to heat strokes and resulting into the loss of life also. There will be, maybe in this particular summer only, coming summer only, I think we are going to experience heat waves. Actually, heat waves will result into diarrhea cases. There will be diarrhea cases in rural areas also. Many times, every degree temperature increase, every 1 degree increase in the temperature would result in 7 to 10 percentage increase in the diarrhea cases. So you can expect, people will, we do not know, rural areas, people will not be aware how to take care of even the children. So there will be more loss of deaths. Actually, deaths will be increasing in the summer season. They do not know why it is happening, but even they do not know how to treat that. Even ORS kind of thing also they do not know. Like, mixing some sugar and salt in water and drink that often. That also many rural people will not be aware. So resulting into the loss of life. Dehydration.
ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು ಜಾಗ ವಿಜಯನಗರಂ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ವಿಶಾಖಪಟ್ಟಣದಿಂದ ಒಂದು 40 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಸಮ್ಮರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಈಗ ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆದಾಗ್ಲಿಂದ 49 ರಿಂದ 50 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ನಾನು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಫೀಲ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ 56 to 59 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಸೆಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಫೀಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ನಮಗೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆನೆ ಬರಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. 7 ಗಂಟೆ 8 ಗಂಟೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸಿಲು ರೋಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಟಾರ್ ರೋಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದಿ ಬಾಯ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂತದನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಸೊ 50-51 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಕೂಡ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸಮ್ಮರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ.
I think it is going to be the huge problem now in the days to come.
Yes sir.
Why all this is happening?
The interventions of human, what we are doing it, and the climate change what is happening.
Yeah, we are talking about Dubai climate conference where in the coming week, I think.
Yes sir.
So that where they are trying to take some actions actually, but actions are remain on the paper. Most of the developed countries do not want to they do not want to take immediate measures. Even like China, which is the highest emitter of carbon emissions, even USA, India is third. So many countries are there, so they have to take some measures immediately. Otherwise, carbon emissions are increasing actually, not decreasing.
ಸರ್ ಹಿಂಗಾದ್ರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮುಂದಿನ ಒಂದು 20 ವರ್ಷ ನಂತರ ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾರು ಇರಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಹತೆ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್.
ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ.
We lose.
Definitely, you are right actually. If the same rate of emissions, because we expected that emissions are going to be reduced. With the Paris conference, the kind of actions they have taken earlier, the kind of agreement they have signed.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಮಾರಲಿಟಿನೇ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾರಲಿಟಿ ನಾವು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದ್ ದಿವಸ
ಏನು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಆಗಿನೂ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ನೋಡಿ, ನಾವು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ AC ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ. We are switching on the AC, we switching on the coolers, we switching on the lights, we are switching on the geyser. We do everything at home. Many times without our knowledge we leave them and come. So many times we use excessively also. All these also contributing. So it starts from home only. It starts from home, it starts from industries, it starts from institutions. Everywhere we should be aware.
Sir, AC use ಮಾಡೋದು, ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ AC ಇಲ್ದೇನೆ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಕ್ ಆಗದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹೌದು, ಅಡಾಪ್ಟೇಷನ್
ಹೈಲಿ ಇಂಪಾಸಿಬಲ್. AC ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಯಾನ್ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬಿಸಿ ಗಾಳಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. AC ಇಲ್ದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಹಿಂಗ್ 2 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಕೂರಕ್ಕೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಆ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗಿನ ಒಂದು ಹೀಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೌ ದ ಸಿಚುಯೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಸರ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಹೌಸಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿ AC ಸರ್. ಅಂಡ್ AC ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸಮ್ಮರ್ ಬಂತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ 30,000 ಇದೆ, 40,000 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, 50,000 ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್. AC ಸೇಲ್ ಆ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಇದೆ.
ಏನು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಡು ನಾಟ್ ನೋ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ರೀಚ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರೌಡ್ that the country is adopting renewable sources of energy. We should be proud of that, because country in Karnataka state, our consumption of electricity from the renewable sources is more than 50% now. That is a very good indication that we are going to achieve 100% in the days to come. So that is very nice development. So we are trying to reduce the fossil fuel.
Ozone layer puncture is also.
Sir, ಹೇಳಿ sir, please tell me. No, you are muted.
ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ.
You are muted. Unmute ಮಾಡಿ. ಮುರುಗೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಸರ್ ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಸರ್ ನನ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ನನ್ನ.
ಈಗ
ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿ.
ಈಗ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಮುರುಗೇಶ್ ಸರ್. You wanted to
ಸರ್
you wanted to say
ಸರ್
something.
ಇಲ್ಲ
I
ಸರ್
cannot
ನನ್ಗೆ
hear you.
ಬಹಳ ಸರಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಯಾ ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ನಾನು ರಿನ್ಯೂವಬಲ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಮೇಲೆ ನಂದು PhD ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು, ವಿಂಡ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಸರ್.
Very good.
ನನ್ಗೆ ಅದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಥ್ರೂಔಟ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ತಿರುಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್ ನಾನು ಪೂರ್ತಿ. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಂಡ್ ಫ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟೆಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್. Nobody is interested to go for renewable energy. Nobody care about our environment. ನಾವು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ನ್ಯಾಕಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು 4,000 ಸಸಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ವಿ ಸರ್. ಈಗ 4,000 ಸಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು 1,500 ಸಸಿಗಳು ಬೆಳೆದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮರಗಳಾಗಿದೆ ಸರ್ ಈಗ ಕಳೆದ 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಖುಷಿ. ಮುಂಚೆ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಬಿಜಾಪುರದಲ್ಲಿ ಚರ್ಚನ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಗ್ರಾಮ ಸರ್, ತಾಲೂಕು ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಲುಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಪ್ರದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ಅಂದ್ರೇನೆ ಯಾರು ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮರಗಳು ಕಡಿಬೇಕು, ಅದ್ರ ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರ್ತೈತಿ, ಲೈಫ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಮುಗೀತು. ಯಾಕೆ ಮರಗಳು ಬೇಕು, ಯಾಕೆ ಗಿಡಗಳು ಬೇಕು, ಈ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ದೊಡ್ಡವರಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲ. ದೇ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ರನ್ ಬಿಹೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಮನಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೌ ಮಚ್ ಆಫ್ ಒನ್ ಟ್ರೀ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀರು ಸಂಗ್ರಹ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಭೂಮಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಸೇರಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ತರದ ವಿಷಯಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾರು ಚರ್ಚೆನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಈ ಒಂದು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ನಾಟ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್. ವಿ ಆರ್ ರೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ಯಾಥೆಟಿಕ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತದೆ ಸರ್, ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾವನೆ ಸರ್ ಇದು. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇದು.
You are right actually, sir. Every one of us should be aware about all these climate friendly technologies, climate friendly activities. Everybody should adapt. Rainwater harvesting. You see, rainwater harvesting is one of the mandatorily implemented in Bangalore. Even today also many people do not want to do that. That is the problem with the people. They do not want to practice it. They do not want to install that simple thing. So if it is not adopted, rainwater harvesting, what is going to happen? In Bangalore, what is happening now? So much water is coming to the road, resulting into the flooding. Asphalting is done deliberately in most of the roads.
Actually, disasters are happening since the origin of the earth itself. But due to the advancement of the technology, now everybody is talking about that because of that awareness. But disasters are happening since the origin of the earth itself.
Yeah. Earthquake, for example, it is happening since the origin of the earth itself. It is known to some of the disasters.
Yeah, sir, continental drift and all is happening since from the origin. But nowadays, what we are talking is much about the man-made induced disasters,
Heat
the
wave,
carbon emission,
heat wave,
all these things, the global warming.
Global warming, rise in the temperature at the surface
Yes,
of the
sir.
oceans, seas,
Yes.
resulting into the cyclones, droughts, floods, etc. All these problems are man-made only.
Yes, sir.
So as much as natural.
ಸರ್
With the
ಸರ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳಿದ
interaction of
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ.
academy. Yeah, sir, with the interaction of academia, we can control this disaster management. As Indian Constitution and Environmental Science is compulsory for the UG people. As same as that of this disaster management is implemented in academia, we can control somehow. At
It
least.
is already there in the curriculum, I think.
Actually, sir, this should be implemented in the constitution, sir. Every house which are constructing now has to have a rainwater harvesting system in their house and should not use any kind of bore wells. That has to be implemented from the law through the law.
Madam,
It is already
same
solar
as
also,
of,
solar.
renewable energy sources, if you use to construct something,
Yes, solar too.
or if you plantation and all, if you do, then only we are allowed to. Government legislation make such things and all, we can control this.
Yeah, wherever it is feasible, it should be implemented. Like, sun may not be there everywhere, but wherever it is there, it should be implemented. Or rainwater harvesting is possible everywhere, so they should be made mandatory. Bangalore, it is made mandatory already. Bangalore city corporation areas, where more population is more than 3 lakhs, it has been made mandatory in the Karnataka Municipal Corporation Act in Karnataka. Even in other states also, it has been made mandatory in many states. So like that, everywhere the people should implement them very strictly. No matter where what.
ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್.
ನಾವು ಭೂಮಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್
Bangalore,
ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್.
people are living in apartments. And
Sir,
anything
ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ?
tragedy is going to happen, it is very dangerous in apartments.
Apartments also, everywhere, apartments also, that is another issue is apartments actually in the cities. They are also causing a lot of issues in the urban areas because of the high concentration of people at one particular area. Their wastewater, which is going to the municipal drains, causing flooding and other problems. It is all happening there also. Their waste being dumped into the municipal waste. All that problem is happening in many places. So they need to manage their own solid waste. They need to manage their own wastewater. They have to install the rainwater harvesting. Everything they should do it themselves. So that is what the law is coming up already. They are implementing also in Bangalore in many places now. Any other thing, sir? Should I move?
ಸರ್, ಈ ನೀರಿನ ಸಂರಕ್ಷಣೆ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾನು ಮಂಗಳೂರು ಕಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಮಾರ್ಚ್ ವರೆಗೆ ನೀರು ಧಾರಾಳ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಸರ್. ಕೆಲವು ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ನೀರನ್ನ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸದೇ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಏನಾದ್ರು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಲ್ಲ ಸರ್? ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ 12 ತಿಂಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಹರಿದು ಹೋಗುವ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ನವೆಂಬರ್ ವರೆಗೆಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಕಿಂಡಿಯನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟು ಅಂತ ಕಟ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಡಿಕೆ ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಿಡದ ಬುಡದಲ್ಲೂ ನೀರು ಇರ್ತದೆ ಆಗ ಜನವರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಷ್ಟು ನೀರಿರುವ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದಲ್ಲ ಸರ್? ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಏಪ್ರಿಲ್ ಮೇಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಇದ್ದವರು ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ ಕಡೆ. ಆತರ ಒಂದು ಏನಾದ್ರು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಅಂತರ್ಜಲ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆಚ್ಚಳ ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತ.
ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯ ಆದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್.
ಹೌದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅದೇ ಜನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಮೆನಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾನು ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು, ನೀನು ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಎವ್ರಿ ಹೌಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ.
ಸರ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ರೀಸನ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಅನಿಸಿಕೆ.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀರನ್ನ ಮಾರ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್ ಟು ದ ಸಮ್ ನೀಡಿ, marketing the water from the bore. So they are exploiting the water actually. That is not correct. Yeah.
ಸರ್, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪಂಪ್ ಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಫ್ರೀ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಏನದು ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರು ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಇದು ಪಂಪ್ ಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಚಾಲುವೇ ಇಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕೂಡ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಡಿಪ್ಲೀಷನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನ ಕೂಡ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮೀಟರಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇಟ್ರೆ ಅದು ಬೆಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಫ್ರೀ ಕರೆಂಟ್, ಅದರ ನಂತರ ಫ್ರೀ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಕೂಡ ಕುಸಿತ ಆಗೋದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೂ. ಯು ಆರ್ ರೈಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ತರಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗೈಡ್ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ದು. ಸೊ ದೇ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ನೋ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಡು ನಾಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಈಗ KPTCL ಇದೆ. ನಾವು ದ KPTCL, KEBs are there, no? Electricity boards, ESCOMs, etc. So they try to implement it, but sometimes there are leakages. 17 to 18%
will disturb our developmental activities. That will take us to 50 years back now, sir. And all construction will stop and everything will be collapsed. And ultimately, that will take us to 50 years back.
Already we are back 50 years back. Not only 50 years, I think, I don't know. I was in Netherlands in 1997.
Sir,
1997 itself, they were already using all the wind energy for pumping the water. Otherwise, they would have been in water. Enormous water is going to be there in the, that is the land itself is Netherlands land, you know, Netherlands. It is Netherlands. So the level of land is lower than the level of
sea
water.
level. Yes.
Yeah, sea level. So they keep pumping the water back to the sea using wind power continuously. And they have that time itself they have laid very well planned cycle lanes, bicycle lanes.
ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ನಂದೊಂದು ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಸರ್, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್. ಸರ್ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಹೈಡ್ರಾಲಜಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀರಿನ ಬಳಕೆ. ನೀರಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿವಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವ್ಯಾರು ಬದುಕೋದಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ವಿತೌಟ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ನೀರನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಟೇಷನ್ ರೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಸರ್ ನಾವು. ಒಂದು ವರ್ಷದ ಅವಧಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಭೂಮಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀರನ್ನ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀರನ್ನ ಬಳಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಯುಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್, ರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟು ರೀಸ್ಟೋರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ರೀಸ್ಟೋರೇಷನ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಯುಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಒಂದ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಂಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಸರ್? ಇದರಿಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ
ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿನ ಈಗ 39 ತಾಲೂಕ್ಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಓವರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ನಾವು. In Karnataka also, some of these taluks, 39 taluks, which were having abundant water, now classified as overexploited. So why it has happened? Because people are exploiting the water, groundwater, putting more bore wells. And now they reached to a situation, even if it is rejuvenated by, even if it is 100% now, idun madidru kuda, they will not come back to the normal situation. So that has become such a situation now. So
ಸರ್ ಇದರಿಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಕ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಸರ್? ನೀರನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ನಾವು,
everything is affecting because we do not know what is happening inside the earth crust.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಸರ್ ನೀರಿನ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬಳಸಿದ್ರೆ ಮುಂದೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಬರ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್? ನಿಮ್ಮ
you have to do the study, research ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, because it is not yet done. What is even earthquakes ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂವರೆಗೂ. earthquakes ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಸುಮಾರು ಅದು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೆಮರ್ಸ್ ನೇಪಾಳ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ಸುಮಾರು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವು. ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
ಹೈಡ್ರೋಲಾಜಿಕಲ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಕೆನ್ ಕಾಸ್ ಅರ್ಥಕ್ವೇಕ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಇರಬಹುದಾ ಅಂತ.
You have to do the research. You do start some research from your institution. Yeah.
ಸರ್ ನಾವು ಹುಮ್ನಾಬಾದ್ ತಾಲೂಕು ಸರ್, ಬೀದರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾಸ್ ಇದೆ ಹುಮ್ನಾಬಾದ್ ತಾಲೂಕಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೀತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬೆಳೆ, ಕಬ್ಬು ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕಬ್ಬು ಉತ್ಪಾದನೆ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ತೊಗರಿ ಬೆಳೆ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಸೋಯಾ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಬೆಳೆಗಳಾಗ್ಲಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ತಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೂ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬಸ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಜನಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬೋರ್ ಕೊರೆಸಿದ್ರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನೀರು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಕೆರೋಸಿನ್ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್. ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್. ಈ ತರದ್ದು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರ ಮೊರೆ ಹೋದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಇರಲಿ, ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಇರಲಿ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಇರಲಿ, ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಇನ್ನ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಸರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ತಡೆಯಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಆ ತರ ಡಿಸೀಸ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್.
ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ? ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತೀರಿ? ಈಗ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ.
ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್, ಬಟ್ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಈಗ?
ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಯೂಸೇಜ್ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಎಫ್ಲುವೆಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಅದರಿಂದ ತರಕಾರಿ ಬೆಳಿತೀವಿ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್ ಬೆಳಿತೀವಿ, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ,
ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋದು,
ಅದನ್ನೇ
ನೀರನ್ನ ಸೇವನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ತುಂಬಾ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಫುಡ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ, ವೆಜಿಟೇಬಲ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇವನ್ ಫುಡ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಲೈಕ್ ದೀಸ್ ಲೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನೈಟ್ರೇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇವೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಕೂಡ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದಾವ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೈಸನಸ್ ಮೆಟಲ್ಸ್
ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಸರ್. ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಓಝೋನ್ ಡೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಡೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾವ್ದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಇದ್ರೂ ಸಹಿತ ಜನರ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್
ಈಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ ಅವರು. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು, ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡವ್ರೆ. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು?
ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನೀರೆಲ್ಲ ಏನಿದೆ, ಕರಂಜೆ ಡ್ಯಾಮ್ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ, ಬೀದರ್ ಹತ್ರ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಪೂರಾ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಾ ಇರೋದು.
ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಎಫ್ಲುವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ಅನ್ಟ್ರೀಟೆಡ್ ಎಫ್ಲುವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್. ಸೊ ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್, ನಾವು ರೈತರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸೇರಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಎ ಬಿಗ್ ಡಿಸಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಬೈ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬಿಗ್ ಡಿಸಾಸ್ಟರ್. ಪಂಜಾಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ ಆಗಿ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಆಲ್ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಪೆಸ್ಟಿಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಗಿರೋದು.
ಅದೇ ಸರ್ ಇವಾಗ ಕೆರೆ ನೀರಿಗೆ ಬರಿತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು.
ಅದು ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲೇ ಪಂಜಾಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೇ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆಗೂ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್. ಈಗ ತಾಜ್ ಮಹಲ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಯಮುನಾ ರಿವರ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಪೂರಾ ಅದ್ರ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಅದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ಮೊದಲಿನ ಕಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಈಗ.
There are two pollutions. One is air pollution, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. ಎರಡು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಏರ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಶುರುವಾಗಿದಾವೆ, ಈಗ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾವೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ
fairs and festivals in India, fairs and festivals are very common. And even during sports day, any final events like cricket and football, and thousands of people, lakhs of people will gather and destroy the environment around the area.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್, ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
Controlling also biggest headache for the department.
We'll move now. We'll
Sir,
move to
yeah,
other,
please, sir. Kindly
issues,
move,
because otherwise we'll stuck up
12
there.
minutes are there. Kindly move with your presentation.
Yeah, kindly I'll move that. So please allow me to go further also. My presentation is also to be completed. So global evidence is there. Global evidence, already you see extreme weather events are becoming more common and severe. So floods are happening every year. Droughts are also there. Storms are also there. You can see the rise in, you can see here how it is rise, number of disasters. You can see between last 2-3 years only, 20 to 20, 19 to 2021 is COVID times. So the number of incidents that have happened, about 289 events have happened in these 3 years only. Average number of events that have happened. Events means disasters. Average number of disasters are about 289 disasters have happened across the globe. As compared to the last 30 years ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಬರೀ 260-261 ಆಗಿದಾವೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರೀ 3 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ just in last 3 years the average number of disasters that have happened are much more than the average of last 20 years. So you can see the reasons for that. So basically weather events, actually most of them are weather events. It may be floods, it may be droughts, it may be storms. All of that weather based, weather events, climate events. So you need to look into all these things. You can see here about 81 countries, 74% of the global emissions. But they have fixed the net zero target by how many years? Now 2050 is the target year for these yellow color here countries. America, Africa, even what is that? This is New Zealand and Australia and other countries. They have fixed 2050 as the target year. This pink color is there, no? They have also after 2050, maybe India is 2070 actually. Namdu. We have fixed our 2070 target year 2050. Even India also 2070 is what? Zero target is 2070 actually. We have fixed in the recent conference, but I think they have changed it now. Slightly 20 years ahead of the target date. So it is good that, at least we are trying to fix the dates for reducing the emissions to zero. So that is one of the most important things. Across the globe, countries are joining together and trying to fix the target date for reducing the emissions to zero. That is one of the most positive indicators that we are trying to do something. But still temperature is rising. Already it is more than 1.5 degrees now, just now. They are trying to fix it to 1.5 degrees, 1.5 degrees compared to the previous pre-industrial days. But still it is not possible for the countries to fix it. So they are going beyond that now. So this is because you should know what is the situation of the entire globe. You can see here disasters in India. What is the disasters? How many disasters? Flood, earthquake, cyclones, all of them are happening here. Most of the disasters in the last 50 years. So most of them are what? Many of them are related to climate events only, climate related events only. All of them, most of them, except this particular one, earthquake. Most of them are climate related events only, disasters. You can see how the disasters have happened across the country. See, you can see here earthquake in Gujarat, Lathu cyclone in Gujarat, and you can see Andhra Pradesh, Lathu, Tamil Nadu, Assam, even everywhere, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarkashi. So these are some of the areas which are vulnerable to different types of disasters in India. You need to know about that and how the disasters have happened and how the losses and damages have happened over the period. So this is one, you can see the Mumbai situation. In cities also you can see disasters now. So this is the situation. You can see how the Belagavi city in Karnataka is experiencing floods. See how it is. Entire area is in the water only. It's not possible even for the rescuers to go there in boat. It is Konkan railway which is collapsed due to landslides. What do we see here after these disasters? We saw the tsunami also in 2004. You can see the kind of problems here, how the people are suffering, loss of life due to different disasters, building collapses due to landslides, Uttarakhand, earthquake, tsunami. Here 93 children burned to death in fire incident in a school in Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu. You can see the kind of site here, how this particular school was completely burnt. Almost all the children, 93 children were charred to death in this incident. All these things are happening because of lack of know-how also. They do not know what to do during the disaster. Do's and don'ts. There is no plan, etc. So teachers are not aware how to escape from the site during the fire incidents. So all these problems led to the death of all these children in the school, in the fire incident. Here you can see the college in Mysore city itself, one Maharani's college, it is collapsed here due to, you can see here how the trees are growing inside the wall, roof. These were the reasons actually for the collapse of the building. It is one of the heritage college built by Maharajas long ago, and it was not well maintained. So therefore, the trees are growing here and not cleaned properly on the terrace. No staircase to clean that regularly. So these are the negligence actually. The negligence led to the collapse of the building here. Is it visible? Can you see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yes, sir.
Sir, if you are playing a video, then the video is not visible, sir.
Visible, sir.
We can go now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is the school, college building only which has collapsed. So just I wanted to show you what were the reason for collapse of the building. We did the study there in Maharani's college in Mysore. The reason was that, even some of the trees which have grown into the walls and roof were left unnoticed for a long time. Even leaves, tree leaves which were falling daily on the roof were not cleaned. Water was getting stagnated. So as a result, dampness increased. In one of the days when there was a heavy rain, a part of the building collapsed there. Fortunately, nobody was injured because nobody was there inside the building that time. That is God grace actually for them. Landslide, you can see the landslides. So frequently landslides happening across this particular Uttarakhand actually, Uttaranchal, Uttarkashi. Who owns hazard? Who owns disaster? Do you lack knowledge? Do you lack appropriate skills, resources? Do you lack any commitment? Do you lack right attitude? So all of them are there with us. Therefore, we should see that, risk, disaster risk should be reduced by increasing the capacity. C means capacity. H means hazards. V means vulnerability. Risk is directly proportional to hazard and vulnerability and inversely proportional to capacity. So if you increase your capacity in terms of manpower, skills, money, machine, materials, then our risk will reduce every year, and this risk should be reduced to zero. That is what is the target which we are fixing by 2030 in India. So this is the definition of disaster. I am coming now to the definition. What is a disaster? If somebody asks you what is disaster, any sudden event leading to loss of life is a disaster. Somebody says that. So that is all the definition we know, but formal definition of disaster is, it may be any catastrophe, it may be mishap, it can be calamity or a grave occurrence affecting any area, whether from the natural or man-made causes, by accident or by negligence, resulting into substantial loss of life, damage to the assets, and damage even to the environment, and is of such a nature which is beyond the coping capacity of the local community. So what does it mean basically? When we call an incident as a disaster, in Indian scenario, as per the Disaster Management Act 2005, if I ask you what is the definition of disaster, you can say it can be any catastrophe, calamity or mishap arising out of natural or man-made causes, or by negligence or by accident, resulting into substantial loss of life, damage to the property, environment, and is of such a nature which is beyond the coping capacity of the community, of the area. That means if you do not have the capacity to manage, if you do not have the capacity to cope up with the situation, if you continue to depend on the external support, either from the district administration or from the state government or from the central government or from the international support, accordingly we classify the incidents as local disaster, like level 1 type of disaster, level 2 type of disaster, and level 3 types of disaster. So depending on the need from the external support. Suppose if you need the support from district administration, if it has happened somewhere in the villages or in some taluk headquarter, then we call it as level 1 type of disaster as per the NDMA guidelines. If you need the support of the state government for managing that event, then it can be level 2 type. If you need the support of national and international support governments or NGOs, then it can be called as level 3 type of disaster. So this is the definition of disaster, and there are 3 levels of disasters also. You please remember, if somebody asks you how you are going to define a disaster and how you are going to declare a disaster, then declaring a disaster is based on this definition, and what level of disaster it is also to be assessed. Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next one. So already we saw that Karnataka also faced a lot of disasters in the recent times. We have any tea time now? Or any break is there?
Yes, sir.
11:50 to 11:45 break is there.
11:50 to 11:45.
So should I continue now or what?
Sir, take break, sir.
We'll take a break.
We'll take a break for how many minutes? 15?
No,
30 minutes, sir.
30
Yeah,
minutes. 11:45 till 11:45 ನಮಗೆ break.
Yeah, please take a break and we'll have a very interesting.
11:40 join ಆಗಬೇಕು sir.
11:44. Okay, we'll join that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.